Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Hustle Science Experiment. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Rudy, Vice President of Sales and Marketing over at Positiviti Lending. Rudy Beltran, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, folks, if you're watching this live or in the replay, please drop in your comments. Let us know any questions you have. Rudy has a really colorful background in marketing as a marketing executive. He's ran his own agency. He's also served in various marketing leadership roles throughout his career, including 20 years at Bud Light, finishing his role at Bud Light as Director of Latino Marketing, and then helped lead marketing over at Cardenas after that. And so I'm really excited to get into the business and life lesson that we have here today. But before we do that, Rudy, could you share a little bit in your own words, what's led you to your career in marketing?
Yeah, I mean, look, I started, got my degree in accounting, thought I was going to go work for the big 8 firms. And I started working at a local distributor in San Antonio right out of college. And when I saw the, how the point of sale affects the buying habits of consumers in retail accounts, it kind of blew me away and opened my eyes about truly how marketing can affect sales, right? And so, I got into Anheuser-Busch, started at the ground level, worked my way through the system, and ended up, my last 12 years at Anheuser-Busch was in brand management. And one of the last jobs was director of marketing for Latino marketing. So, great opportunity. And even on the Latino side, it's great because yes, you do create creative to hit those consumers that are watching Telemundo and Univision, but there's also a big set group of Latinos that don't watch Univision and Telemundo on a regular basis, right? So how are you marketing to them? And so we were able to do some great programs with Pitbull, Chef Aaron Sanchez. We did some great NFL work as well. It's great that the NFL actually was very open to a not necessarily a bilingual campaign for Bud Light and the NFL teams that we had partnerships with, but they really were open to marketing to that consumer. And so it's been a great experience, and I've taken all my learnings to my job now, and it's been really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, you definitely have been in marketing during an interesting time, I think, especially for like the Latino market, right? Like you witnessed that evolve, but not just the Latino consumers evolve, but also the way that brands responded to them.
Right.
And the reason I find that really interesting is I just watched the Flamin' Hot documentary recently. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did see it.
That's cool. I guess before we get into our lessons about that, Flamin' Hot documentary was interesting because you had a janitor who wanted to get the company to respond better to Latino consumers. And thankfully, Pepsi was open to that. I mean, how has your experience at Bud Light been similar, or any stories you could share with us?
No, I think, for a long period of time, not just Anheuser-Busch, but all the beer companies, it was just important that you had a campaign that you could showcase, on Univision and Telemundo, because those spots weren't going to be shown on national TV, right? Yeah. And so that was important, and that was the way you were focused on bringing these campaigns to life, so they can be showcased in the Spanish-speaking audience. But as we continued to grow, the Hispanic community got bigger, it became a voice, right? We realized that, like myself, I'm third, fourth generation Tex-Mex. English is first, Spanish is second. I watched Univision and Telemundo growing up, it was because somebody was watching a soccer game, not because I understood the Spanish, right? But as the Latino consumers, 21 to 28, had a voice, then we realized we had to have campaigns that were outside of what we were doing just for Spanish television and even Spanish radio to that point. So we realized that we had to come up with some programs that could touch on both sides, and I think Pitbull was the best example of it. He did some great collaborations. I remember the year we signed him. A month later, him and Enrique Iglesias opened up the American Music Awards. They were the first act, the first live act on the show, and then people
That's
went home,
awesome.
and they realized
That's
that hey, we had a home run, right? We needed to take it and then execute it in the marketplace. So it's always cool when you get these ideas, you put them together. And on the beer side, you just don't sell to the consumer. You got to sell to your selling team. You got to sell to the independent wholesalers, and then you got to sell it to the retailers before it even gets to the
right.
consumer.
Oh,
You
true.
got to go through
Yeah.
these levels of selling the program in. So it's just really important that communication is open, it's good, it's clear, and you get your message across.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. I think there's a lot of lessons there about being responsive to the evolving consumers
Right.
as a marketer. But let's get into what we're really excited about, which is the work you're doing at Positivity Lending. And I read a little bit about your bio, and you're talking about your passion for social impact and how you've been able to join this company over a year ago, and how this company is enabling entrepreneurs in Kenya through micro lending. And our business lesson today is actually going to be on micro lending as an alternative investment, parenthesis, social impact, with a good ROI. Can you open that up for us and tell us more?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest things I can communicate today is, and so that everyone understands, is there's over 3 billion people across the globe that don't have access to banks. And these are underserved communities globally, right? It's just not in Kenya. But the point is that these folks don't have access to banks. They don't have access to capital. And so these programs, like our microlending program, it's a peer-to-peer lending program. We raise capital here in North America. We look for folks like yourself who come in. They lend money. Money goes into a lending pool, and then we have borrowers in Kenya that borrow money through an app. We all have used this every day in our lives. The one thing they have these, from a technology standpoint, it seems everyone in Kenya has a phone. They may not have a computer, they may not have an iPad, right? But they do have a phone. That's their base. And so, they can go online, they can download apps. We're one of 387 companies in Kenya that operate in this business model. And so they can go on the apps. Most of these people don't have good credit or any credit history. So the loans are 30-day loans. They average between $5 and $500 US equivalent. And obviously, if you don't have any credit history, or you have bad credit history, you're going to be at the low end of how much you can borrow. But obviously, the interest rates are going to be a little higher. And then if you build your credit history and you get to the $500 max, your interest rates are going to be lower, right? But the point here is these are 30-day loans. So you as a lender, as you invest your money, you become the bank, right? And your money goes out 12 times in the year. And so we have two levels. We have entry level. So anything below $50,000 that you come in with, you earn 1% a month or 12% a year. Anything over $50,000, you'll earn 3% a month or 36% annually. So it's a great opportunity. This is an alternative investment opportunity. You really got to look at investing in yourself. So many times, I'll give you my story. I kind of got institutionalized into how you're supposed to invest your money, right? And by that, what I'm saying, went to college, got my first job with corporate America, got into that, started my 401k. A couple years down the road, I got a financial advisor. Why? Because everyone else had one.
Yeah, it's
And
just the default thing. It's like
yeah,
almost the indoctrination, but the
exactly.
reality is society changes, technology changes, and
Right.
doing things the old way just because it's a tradition, like where
Exactly.
there's like a lot of respect and merit to that, isn't a good enough excuse to just do it blindly.
Yeah, and when you start that process and you start looking at it, now you got to look outside the box. There's so many different ways you can do things. I mean, look at what Apple just announced. You can open a savings account through their Apple Plus accounts, and everyone's excited because they're offering 4.15% yearly. Well, you can come into our program and start earning 12% yearly, right? So again, it's all about communication. We've only been around since 2018. The micro lending industry has been around for years. It started in Bangladesh. If you get a chance, download the book. It's Banking to the Poor by Muhammad Yunus, Yunus. He's the founder of microloans in Bangladesh. He actually won a Nobel Prize for it.
That's amazing. That's super
Yeah,
amazing. I remember you telling me about that. I'm going to get that up here on the screen because we
I
for
appreciate it.
sure need to read that book.
But the point here is it's an alternative way of investing. You as an individual need to invest in yourself today, okay? And do things that are outside the box. And yes, there is risk. I will say there's always going to be risk. I'm dealing with guys that have portfolios. And the first thing they ask me is, "What are my guarantees?" And I say, "I give you the same guarantees that your financial advisor gives you, which is nothing." Okay, so you know, yes, it's a risk, but it's also high reward.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. I think, and let's go into the story a little bit because you said that first off, on the investor side, there uh, there is a really low minimum or almost no minimum to earn
Right,
the 1% recurring because your money's going into a pool. And then
right.
on the lendee side, or the person that's getting the,
The borrowers, yes,
you said there's a cap of $500 for their
correct.
30-day loan. Yeah, for the borrowers. And what's the minimum?
The minimum they borrow is $5, and again,
Okay.
that's if
And can you
that.
tell me about how far that goes for somebody?
Well, in
How far
Kenya,
does $5 goes to?
most of these people that are borrowing the money they're called micro enterprises. We all know the
Mhm.
small mom and pop shops, right? We all grew up with them. We all know the corner store down the street that we see. And but in Kenya, these are micro enterprises. These are street vendors. They specialize in one type of consumer good, right? And and then they're using this this opportunity to borrow capital and then utilize the capital to buy assets, those consumer goods that they specialize in. And then they sell, right? And then they make their profit and then they pay back the loans with interest and then they start the cycle all over again, right?
Yep.
Uh, but we've got guys we have folks they're basically called messengers, but they're on motorbikes.
Mm,
It costs them about $1.50, $2 to fill up their tank for the day. And these guys are actually borrowing, the $5 to fill up their tank, do their messaging all day, and then they're usually doing these loans in 2 to 3 days, right?
okay.
Because they need it, right? They need the money to pay for the gas, and then they're doing their
Oh, I
messaging
see.
duties. They're making their money, they pay back the loan, and then it's just a complete cycle that keeps going and going. So,
Yep.
but again, at the same time, they're building their credit history.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's awesome.
only 3% of the population in Kenya has access to banks. Think about that for a little bit.
Oh wait, only 3% of the population in Kenya has access to banks. I remember you also telling me about how you have folks from Positivity Lending on the ground. Instead of like having a bank and people need to go to the bank, you actually have folks that can go out to the community, teach people how to
Right.
download the app, and almost be like their service provider.
Yeah. So we have two offices in Kisumu and Nairobi, but then we also have 200 field reps. I think
200. Wow.
what I was explaining to you, Les, is that we've all seen the movie where the actors are in the Middle East. They walk into a coffee shop, but they walk into the coffee shop because they got to check their emails or send a message on the computer. So
Yep.
those are all over the place, right? And most of the agents hang out in those areas because then those are where folks come to find out information. If they're having issues with the app, or these folks can then send them to the offices in Kisumu and Nairobi. So it is great that we have these field reps out there because it does definitely helps the process.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love the social impact side, and just last piece here, and then I want to go back into the benefits for the investors. But I can just share my screen real quickly. This is on the Positivity Lending site, and so I take it that this can be like a average example of a client or a
Right.
borrower, somebody that may be selling food, or maybe they make a product, or like you said, they may be doing messaging or transportation or something like that.
Yeah, these folks, they all work hard. 65% of our borrowers are women. And we all know if you empower a woman business leader in the community, she will empower the community, right? We know that.
Absolutely.
We have experience from across the globe that when you empower women in their community, they in turn empower in the community they live in, right? And that's where education comes in, helping those to move to a new level of society.
I think that is super awesome that you all have a hardcore focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion from the beginning. Was it a story by Muhammad Yunus or a story from your founder that you told me about in terms of like how this kind of started for micro lending? Is there a story for how positivity started that you could share?
Yeah, so our co-founder is Dr. Barry Odhiambo. He's from Kenya. So he understood the algorithm. He understood what was going on in Kenya, but he needed capital, right, to get the company up and running. He moved his family to um, the U.S. He ended up in Fresno, of all places. We still tease him about that. Of all the places in California, he could have
What's so
chosen.
wrong with Fresno?
Yeah, he could have chosen a lot of other cities, but no, Fresno. It's just making fun of him. And
Yes.
but he has a great. Actually, him and his wife are pastors within the local church as
Oh
well.
wow,
So it's a
that's
pretty
awesome.
cool story. But he came to the U.S. saying, "Look, I know how this micro lending program is. I understand the peer to peer business. I understand the algorithm. I know I have the borrowers, but I need capital." And so
Mhm.
he was able to convince folks to get involved early. They started with $10,000, literally in 2018, and now we're doing extremely well. We have some major competitors here in the U.S. Uh, I call them my big brothers and sisters. Tala, they're out of Santa Monica. They average $85 million in loans a month.
Oh
Branch is
wow.
out of San Francisco. They average between 50 and $60 million a month. Still very big. And then the other side of the coin, which I think more people have probably heard of, is Kiva. They run the same type of model, except the lenders, you can actually go in. They work in 77 countries, right? And so Kiva basically partners with loan originators in all those countries. And then
Okay.
you specifically can pick out a country if you want to go to Ecuador, right? Or if you want to go to Nigeria. You go to those countries, and then you can see the individuals in those different cities within Nigeria that are asking for support, for their specific business purpose. And then you can pick the individual, and that money then goes to that individual. So it's a little different, but
Mm.
it's basically the same tool.
Yeah, and to that point, is there some work that y'all do or look at in terms of like international connectedness of business owners and entrepreneurs? For example, a couple weeks ago, we had a delegation of Slovenian entrepreneurs come visit Las Vegas, and then we gave them a tour and had set up various collaboration meetings in that week, and so hearing that about Kiva makes me think, are American business owners able to build business relationships overseas through a platform like this?
Yeah, and I think if you do your research, I mean, I could probably sit here for 24 hours to discuss this, but if you do your research, you're going to see that like Tala and Branch have major venture capitalist groups and private equity groups investing in their companies. These
Okay.
are American companies. They're not set up to do the algorithm and do the apps, but they're more than willing to invest in these companies, right?
Hmm.
So we're at the stage where we're still taking individual investors. whereas
Yeah.
they're so big now, they're dealing with private equity and venture capitalist
I
groups.
see. I see. Okay. Okay. And to be very clear, the benefit of micro lending as an alternative investment for business owners like myself. I just texted a couple of my friends, this interview link just so that they can check it out because essentially, we could pull some funds and then start micro lending and then we'll earn 1% interest a month, 12% a year.
Correct. I
That's
mean,
great. That's
if
great.
you if you have any opportunities, if you got money in a savings account that is making 1 or 2%, you've got to look at yourself in the mirror and understand that you have an opportunity to start making 12%, right? And to
Yeah.
start building for the future. Each of us
That's
has to
that's
invest
awesome.
in yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because no one else is going to do it for you.
Yep, yep, and that brings us to our life lesson. I know we're kind of cutting it close on time here. I'm sure we could talk about this forever, but before we get into a life lesson, can you just share with us, a moment of gratitude? What might you be feeling grateful for today?
No, I think the biggest thing is look, I've got 30 years of experience in sales and marketing. And I've been around a lot of organizations that have asked for charitable contributions, over the years. And you make those donations, right? And you get the hat, you get the T-shirt, you may get a letter, and that's great, right? But I think the one thing you have to realize is you're helping those folks in underserved communities, right? By becoming a lender in this platform, and you're helping them to succeed, to have successful or succeed in life, right? And succeed with their families. And I think the biggest thing is, yes, you're lending the money to them and you're helping these individuals, but you're also making some money on the backside, right? So, it's empowering that your money's working that way. It's a lot different than saying, "Well, I just put my money in the stock market and I hope the company does well, and I hope I get a quarterly report that does well, so it'll go up," right?
Right,
Whereas your money is actually helping individuals that don't have access to capital, um, and they're doing better for their lives, they're doing better for their family, and then on the back end, you're getting paid as well for your investment.
yeah. I think would this be considered social impact investing?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Awesome,
Look,
awesome.
I mean, look, we can't change the world today, right? But if we could, all of us, just make a dent, just a dent, we can move. We can make a difference, right? And
Yeah,
at least
one
get
hundred.
moving in the right direction. But it takes people. It takes people to think outside the box, because this is not. If you talk to a financial advisor, they're 99 out of 10 financial advisors don't know what microlending is. And the reason, because it's private sector.
Yeah,
They get paid for what's going on in the stock markets with mutual funds and whatnot. It's not about what's going on in the private sector. So, great opportunity for you guys to come on out, come on board. If in a worst case scenario, all you're making is 12%, that's a pretty good thing.
yeah. And this is a very new model. I mean, Muhammad Yunus's Nobel Peace Prize was awarded in 2006, and that was probably the great validator of this
Right,
type of business.
right.
So this is very new. For our life lesson, you talked about, or the topic is investing in yourself and really positioning yourself as, being the bank. Can you tell us more about what that means?
Well, when you position yourself, you come in as a lender. No, not one of us has ever gone to a bank, asked for a loan, and then asked the bank, what are they making on their side? You've never asked that question,
Right,
right?
for sure, for sure. No, no, even
Well,
though it's probably an exorbitant amount.
exactly, exactly. But the point is, you can come in on the lender side, and your money, because it goes into a pool, right? And your money is now helping those in underserved countries, where you're getting the benefit of being the bank. You're making that interest, whether it's a 1% or 3%, depending on your level. So, when I say 1%, I've heard people say, "Oh, well, that's not really a lot." And I said, "Well, no, but that's 12% a year." The eyes open, right? That's when you realize, like,
Yeah, it's a 30-day term. It's not a 1 year term, which
yeah,
is,
what happens is your money goes out 12 times in a calendar year, which is
yeah,
awesome.
that is really awesome.
So it's a great opportunity. Do your due diligence, look at the industry. I will tell you, if you go to businesswire.com, there is an article that came out in December 16th of 2022, and it showcases the microlending industry. The industry ended 2022 at roughly $32 billion, and it is expected to grow to $87 billion by 2030. So you have an opportunity to get on board now versus sit on the sidelines and read about it.
Yeah, and then be a part of this amazing emergence of Africa in the global economy,
Exactly.
which I think is a really incredible story to tell as well.
And
How
like I
can
was telling you guys earlier, Tala and Branch are big competitors, right? They're our big brother and sister. Tala's in Kenya as well, but they also are in India, the Philippines, and Mexico. Branch is in Nigeria, Tanzania, and India, as well as Kenya. So, there is plenty of room for growth. The Pacific Asian market is one of the biggest markets. They're growing, one of the most profitable markets. So there is opportunity for us to grow, but we've got to grow capital first.
Absolutely. Well, I'm really grateful, Rudy, that we were able to meet at the Money Show here in Las Vegas, and that you're really passionate about social impact, and that we've been able to have this conversation. And I look forward to keeping in touch and finding ways to support each other and collaborate, and being a part of your platform. How can folks get in touch with you or sign up for Positivity?
Well, if you just go to our website, look at the opportunities there. There are a page to contact us. Just send an email asking to talk to me. I will send you guys out an email with a Calendly link so that you can go to my calendar. You can pick a date and a time that works for you, and then we can sit down. I can talk to you about it, take you through the deck, make sure you understand the industry. But more importantly, I ask, you guys have access to so much information. Elias, I really appreciate you, on the spot pulling up the Business Wire announcement, right? But you guys have access to so much. So go invest a little bit of your time, understand what the industry is, and understand that you have an opportunity to get in now, and not watch on the sidelines.
Amen to that. Rudy, thank you so much. Thank you.
Right,
and folks, if I saw a couple of you kind of jump in and jump out and some likes. So, Quincy and Cyril, thank you so much for tuning in. Please, if you have any questions, just drop them in the comments and we'll make sure to come back to you guys about that. But until then, we'll see you next time.
Ciao, bro.